Your class is pink plus ratio, get owned. All right, so let's talk about the buffs. Huge change. And also, can I say Blizzard and also Blasson, thank you. Because this has needed to happen for so long. I finally don't have to do the rant I've done 100 times where I talk about how it makes no sense how Resto Druid, Mistweaver, and Holy Priest don't do more HPS than the other three healers 100% of the time, because they should. Because you could make the argument that even if they did like 5 to 10% more healing, in that scenario, you would have still taken a Disc Priest, a Paladin, and a Shaman in a lot of fights. And that's not even including the fact that those classes that I just named actually have done more HPS than Resto Druids, Mistweavers, and Holy Priests on average for the past 5 years. I'm glad they finally did it, and at least it's with those specific buffs, at least it's an understanding that at least now they know that like old model has been wrong. So I need to find the actual post. Let me see if, this is the blue. Here we go. Okay, so Resto Druid. All healing abilities increased by 10%, but that's not all. All damage abilities increased. I'll get into this being a little weird in a second, because like I feel like they kind of have the wrong idea. I get that they're buffing their damage, but like the fundamental problem for Druid and Holy Priest and Shaman is in a raid, the problem isn't that their spells don't do damage. The problem is they don't use those spells while healing. Clearly, Mistweaver, Holy Paladin, and Disc use those spells while healing. So, like, you can get tricked, and I believe they do get tricked by going to Warcraft logs and looking at healer rankings, and you're like, oh, wait, they're not that far apart. But in, like, a progression scenario, it is so much more infinitely valuable to have that damage happening passively or through PI from priests, where those classes are able to fully heal, right, at any time. Like, that's the problem. Right? Like, obviously, a Mythic Plus, Shamans do, like, fucking bonkers damage with Vesper Totem. I get it. But, like, in a raid, that's not really the case. Like, yes, they do damage, for sure. Yes, you keep Flame Chuck up. Yes, you throw in Lava Burst when you can. Smart healers really fit in damage when you can. But you just can't compare that to a class that does just as much healing as you on average, like, through most raids. And they just do that damage without having to think about it or changing how they play. So I would think it's going to be something that they'll have to change for next expansion, but if they're going to allow some healers to have that element, which in my in my opinion is good, I think they should allow all healers to have it, because this game is already so hard to balance with classes having specific niches and really strong specific utility. Why make that harder on yourself by making half of the healers do damage while healing and half of them not? It's just impossibly hard to balance the last three. Even that shit out. It's really not that interesting to just have healers without even thinking about it, just doing multiple thousands more DPS than other healers. So that's my raid take. Now in dungeons, obviously, healers can fit in a lot more damage. You give it, yeah. Also, the Life Bloom Hot increased by 12% and the Bloom Heal increased by 20%. Nourish, the talent, got increased by 15%. I fucking love talent buffing. Nothing bricks me up more than seeing a Blizzard dev buffing an underused talent or just talents in general, because I think that is one of the things missing from this game that would make it so much better. So I'm about to get heavy bricked on this last part. So Overgrowth, the talent, mana cost reduced by 60%. Inner Peace talent now has an additional effect. While channeling Trank, you take 20% reduced damage and are immune to knockbacks. Let's go. And then Germination now has an additional effect. Rejuvenation increased by 2 seconds. Now, obviously, I'm a man of culture, and I don't know what any of these talents are because I would never heal for any reason, right? But I assume they're all sick, so moving on. Arcane, 2-piece. Enemies affected by Touch of the Magi take 10% increased damage. Was 18. Pretty decent nerf. Arcane's weird. Arcane is like such a niche spec. Like, I feel like in the right scenario, Arcane can be like the best spec in the game, but like for an overall play in a raid, I think it kind of falls short. So I don't know how I feel about that, but it's whatever. That's fine. Mages are always god classes, so all good with me. Fire, this is pretty significant. I can tell you with confidence that this tier bonus is exactly half as good as it was before. So I imagine Fire will still be good. I imagine they'll probably still be a good Kyrian target. I think they're probably a good PI target. Just not as good as it was before. Did some preliminary testing with stuff like that, but obviously we won't talk about the stuff we've done with that. But yeah, Fire Mage and all mages, as always, will be just fine. No reason to worry about that. I will say, though, I did see a couple tweets from Preheat, and I do think they make complete sense. Now with the nerf to the Fire 4-piece to where it's now you get less contribution from tier than some other classes do, it makes no sense that this is the only 4-piece in the game that gives you a negative like effect. And that's something that I get why it's the case. It's like, because it's combustion and like you're burning. Like I get it, right? But also it's like, at least it's not as much anymore, but it's like, it used to be like a pretty significant amount of healing. It made Leech a pretty insane stat for Mage because it had like basically no overhealing before. There's no reason for it to have a negative effect now. I hope they take it out. All right, Paladins. I think we've all been waiting for this, the whole expansion. Not only this, because Ashen is something that is usually only attributed to Holy Paladins. Prop Paladin Ashen is so fucking good and is the primary reason you see Paladins played in the Race to World First now. Like for example, prop paladins are incredibly good on a good player in progression. They have Hand of the Protector, probably better than everything else they have. They have an actual external that no other tank has. They have the ability to bop someone or spell bop, which is like super insane on some fights to deal with things. It was used in Sanctum, right? And then you have really good damage. Their new tier is crazy. We'll get into that for a second. This is actually so good, but they actually have they have so much utility. The only thing, but they had all of that for years. Seriously, for years. They had everything I just said in a raid, and they still were not quite at the level they're at now. The main thing that pushed them over the edge this expansion is they are noticeably tankier now than in any of my memory in the last like 2 or 3 expansions. That's probably the primary reason, because that was the main detractor before. But the other thing is that they have Ashen, and bringing Ashen, which does like as much healing as a Holy Pally Ashen from a tank, is fucking absurd. That alone, Ashen from a tank is the singular best piece of utility any tank has, pound for pound, that one ability. So this is certainly targeted at Holy Paladin, but I think that for other specs, Ashen was way, way, way too strong of a raid cooldown to bring from a non-healer character. So I like seeing this. Not to mention, there's always Holy Paladin Doomers, because Holy Paladins are one of the few classes that like their player base is always trying to convince you that, oh, they're not really that good. There's a couple of classes like this. Demon Hunters are like this all the time. But they actually, like the people, if you see screenshots from their class Discord, like they actively, it seems like they want their class to be bad just so they can complain about it. Paladins are like fucking public enemy #1 for shit like that. They actually are. DKs are another one. This is not going to make Paladin bad. I think you'll look at healing and like maybe not an overall HPS, but a Paladin brings absolutely so much insane shit to a raid. Not only does it bring a 3% passive DR, that, you know, Ret kind of has to be meta to bring it. Prop Paladin is certainly good, right? I'm not like implying a Prop Paladin probably wouldn't be in the raid comp, but they have unique utility that other healers don't have, and they have a really good healing profile for a lot of really hard mechanics on Mythic and like fight damage profiles, where like if you were to just run 4 Disc Priests or 2 Disc Priests and a Monk, you'd want that 4th healer slot if you were 4 healing to be able to do a lot of the things Paladin can do with more focused healing. It actually like really smooth things out over just high HPS. Not to mention that if there was like a phase you have to like go send one healer to go do, Ashen is still probably the biggest hard carry for that in the game, damage plus healing and combined, and I think it still has massive value. So I don't want to hear any Paladin Doomer shit. If you guys have played Paladin this expansion, you knew this was coming. You are delusional if you thought this wasn't coming. It absolutely was. Your damage had to get nerfed, even though Disc Priests do more now, including PI. I guess no one will talk about that. One thing, I don't know if this got figured out. So I saw Avenging Wrath rank 3 had been removed, and some people were wondering if they actually nerfed wings. Because I believe, did they nerf wings? I think they did, right? That kind of nerfs Necrolord a little bit, for sure. Because like wing uptime, right? Yeah, it's definitely a nerf, but I think this nerf was coming. This I did not expect. Okay, I can understand complaining about this, to be honest. This I did. If you play Holy Paladin, you should have known this was coming. It needed to come the whole expansion. You could argue that other healers need to get nerfed too, sure, but like this needed to happen, so it did. Okay, and then the prop bonus. When you take damage, you have a chance equal to 100% of your block chance to cast Judgment at your attacker. We were fucking around with this a little bit. Seems like a 3-second ICD, and it obviously an extremely high chance to block. Usually it's over like 60%. So basically, anytime you take damage, every 3 seconds you're firing off a Judgment, which is fucking insanely good. This will get nerfed if not for any other reason but PvP. It's also going to be broken ass single target in a raid. But in PvP, this is absolutely not okay. I was dueling Lip playing Prot, and I actually killed my own character from just hitting him. Like, that's not, nope. Delete. Or don't delete, just like make slightly not as good, because that's too much. Anyways, Priest, Holy, all healing abilities increased by 10%. Much needed. glad to see this. Holy Priest has been, at least Holy has had the benefit of specking Disc for a couple expansions, which you can't say the same for Resto or Mistweaver before this patch. But they've definitely needed a lot of things, and obviously bless praise Blason for this buff. Again, all damage abilities increased by 15%. That's fine. I like it. It's certainly not a bad thing, but we just talked about it. That's not the fundamental problem. Symbol of Hope cooldown reduced to 3 minutes was 5 minutes. Very nice. Channel time reduced to 4 seconds was 5. Holy Word Chastise increased by 25% the damage. Prayer of Circle talent now also reduced the cost of Prayer of Healing by 25%. Guardian Angel talent now has an additional effect. When Guardian Spirit saves the target from death, it does not expire. Afterlife now has an additional effect. As a Spirit of Redemption... I'm probably moving too fast through this. This is all really fucking good. Okay, Afterlife now has an additional effect. As a Spirit of Redemption, you may cast Resurrection, which ends the Spirit of Redemption. Which, by the way, I think we tested this a little bit. I believe you can res someone in combat, and it does not count as a battle res. You can res... let me make sure I can say that again and you guys get it. You can die as a Holy Priest, turn into a little fucking spirit, and you can res someone who is dead and does not cast a battle res. Potentially pretty fucking good. Okay, so obviously there's ways to do cool shit like this, but you have to keep in mind that every time you're doing that, you're choosing to kill your priest to res someone. If you're going to game it, right? Now, the other way around that could be, you could use an Ankh Totem, kill your priest in the Ankh Totem, the priest reses that person, the Ankh Totem reses the priest, right? Or something like that. So it could just be a really good, this is what you do to do an immunity soak, basically. It's there's a lot of ideas. I'm sure people will have a lot of them. It's cool to think about. But I think most of the time, this will be used for a Holy Priest dies. Oh no, I messed up. Happens to everybody. And then they're like, well, I feel less bad because now I can res this other guy who died. And then that's it, right? Very cool. Very, very, very cool. If anything, Holy Priest needs some more niche because they kind of just seem like they don't do anything. So Binding Heal, the talent has been removed. Cosmic Ripple talent has been moved and replaces the Binding Heal talent on row 40. New talent, row 30, Binding Heals. 20% of heal or flash heal healing on other targets also heals you. Okay. And then they made another thing. Let's see. The first thing that popped up for me was resing everybody after a wipe when we have no Soulstone. Yeah, I mean, obviously you could do that, but increasingly more broken is you can res people in combat. I wonder if they intend that. I mean, honestly, I kind of like them. I like them leaving it like this. Honestly, I like them leaving like this unless after I'm actually just spitballing right now on how you'd use it. I haven't thought about this for one total second before I started talking. But I feel like it would be really good as long as it isn't extremely degenerate. And I can't think of any ways right now that are crazy degenerate, like run for Holy Priest situation. I really don't I don't think so, but it's possible. All right, cool. Let's go on. Dungeon stuff, I could not care. New seasonal affix encrypted. Enemies throughout the dungeon possess relics of the first ones. Destroy the relics to summon the first one's Atama and gain powerful bonuses based on the order in which they were destroyed. So it's always hard to tell with these. So I haven't played it. I've heard it's giga boring. But what's interesting, though, is that I've heard, at least when affixes come out, the Mythic Plus community seems very quick to complain about them when some of them have actually ended up being pretty good. I actually remember the first day of Awakened, people were like, this is fucking lame. It's okay, Awaken was probably the best affix they've ever made. Same thing with last expansion, or last patch. I asked, a bunch of Mythic Plus people, and they were like, no, dude, I hate it. It sucks. And then, throughout the season, they're like, all right, it's pretty good. I get it. You know what I mean? I don't think last patch's bonus was, great, but it wasn't, awful, right? So, all I'm saying is, and this is true with anything in WoW, before you give, a super spicy take about it, just, try to give it some time. The WoW community struggles with viewing anything objectively in real time. It's usually met with, a lot of negativity. So, knowing that, when you're listening to a lot of takes, you just need to let something sit. Most things in WoW, you need to actually look back almost an entire expansion or more to actually realize if something was good or bad, as much as that sucks. But yeah, honestly, though, it doesn't look that fun. But I also don't do Mythic Plus, so I don't care. That's it. Okay, cool. Comments. Holy Paladins are mad? Gonna guess. Anyone here? Okay. Bye, Holy Pals. Yeah, I mean, I'll just stop you right there. If you actually think Holy Paladins are just going to be bad and unusable now, you are just throwing a fit, which is fine. I throw fits too. Sometimes I don't get what I want and I just throw an absolute fit, and that's fine. There are time and places to be an adult and just throw a fucking fit. You know what I mean? But it's gonna be fine. Also, your class is pink plus ratio. Get owned.